boxes are gone. Those phone booths are gone. Where does Superman change? Where does he go to change now?
Let's ask Larry Holder.
Okay, let's go to the phone and talk to Larry Holder. He covers the New Orleans Saints for the Times-Picayune. Hi, Larry. How you doing?
I got a good question. Yeah, I'm wondering too. Where do they change in the phone booth? I mean, I'm just as confused as you guys.
I don't know. Maybe they go into
like characters all over New Orleans who always need to find a quick change spot. We don't have. We got nowhere to do it here.
Sure you do. You go in one of those alleys off Bourbon Street. You can do anything in one of those alleys.
Or in the middle of the street. Who cares?
Hey, Larry, let's. We've been going around the NFC South all week long. We're down to the Saints right now.
We saved the best for last, Larry.
New Orleans, the Saints were 7-9 each of the last 2 seasons, which is hard to believe for a lot of us because of all that talent on offense. But they've been 7-9 because of the D. So I'm wondering, is the defense going to be any better this year?
Yeah, well, they've been 7-9 2 of the last 3 seasons. And when Sean Payton came back in 2013, that's when the defense jumped up with Rob Ryan. Look, they were 4th in the NFL that year, and they essentially had the same players the following year and took a dramatic turn for the worse. They go from 4th to 31st, and I think it's ultimately what will make or break this team this year. And they've made tons of changes. They've cut ties with both of their defensive captains from last year, Junior Gillette and Curtis Lofton. They brought in former Raiders head coach Dennis Allen, who is a longtime confidant of Sean Payton. And essentially it's Rob Ryan's replacement is staring him in the face every day. And so Drew Brees can be the Drew Brees of old, but if they can't get the defense right, can't create pressure, can't create turnovers, this team will meander around 500, have to win in shootouts, and it could be the same thing. And this could be a kind of pivotal season for where the Saints go beyond 2015.
Larry, this is what Ian. Thank you very much for joining us. But you talked about, let me bring up the 2 coordinators you were talking about. Do you think it was that Rob Ryan just wears thin on people very quickly? Because, I mean, he's had some success and some failures. And Dennis Allen did a good job when he came here from New Orleans and quickly got the job under Al Davis in Oakland and kind of messed the bed, if you will.
May I just say that the words Rob Ryan and thin aren't usually used in the same sentence?
He wears thin, though. He's fat, but he wears thin on people. So if you could, I mean, have you seen a freshness that didn't exist? I mean, Rob Ryan only was there for, about 3 years. But, I mean, is Dennis, because he was there before, a breath of fresh air after the Rob Ryan experiment?
Yeah, I think it's well, look, they're trying to coexist, and so it's an interesting dynamic, and it basically came down to Sean Payton and Rob Ryan. Of course, they're mega alpha guys.
Yeah,
and so Sean Payton said, "Look, I still think Rob can be part of the solution, but they needed a calmer influence within the room." And Dennis Allen is one of the calmer guys, and look, Sean Payton has a ton of trust in Dennis Allen. Look, he, as you alluded to, he came from New Orleans and jumped from secondary coach to defensive coordinator there in Denver, then becoming a young head coach. And of course, Oakland is where basically coaches go to move on to a lesser job because they don't last long. But look, it's something to where I think Sean Payton needed someone guiding, working with Rob Ryan. And look, they work together. Rob Ryan may be making the calls, but they're going to work together. It's someone that Sean Payton really trusts. And like I said, look, if this goes south early, say the Saints go 1-3 and the defense stinks, it would not surprise me at all if Sean made a move and said, look, Dennis is in, and Rob, you're ultimately out. And so, because look, I could tell you, Sean thought hard about pulling the plug on Rob Ryan after year 2. So it's something that they've got to coexist. Dennis Allen has no problem talking about the quote-unquote marriage. Rob Ryan does not want to talk about it at all. I think it just shows you where they are within this relationship right now.
Our guest is Larry Holder of the Times-Picayune, and this segment sponsored by the Blake Street Tavern at 23rd and Blake. Hey, Larry, how much Are the Saints and Drew Brees going to miss tight end Jimmy Graham? And why did it seem like the Saints let him go so readily?
I think they can overcome it. They never, Jimmy Graham was certainly their number one weapon. But when they were great, Super Bowl year, 2011, when they won 13 games, now Jimmy had become that number one weapon. But in 09, when they were great, they didn't have a number one guy. And I think that this may be kind of the silver lining with losing Jimmy Graham. Maybe the offense can become more diverse because I think everyone in the building knew Jimmy Graham was the number one target. And so they definitely needed to upgrade on the offensive line. That's what really hindered the passing game last year. Pressure was in Drew Brees' face. They went out and got Max Unger. He has been very good. He's been one of the best guys we've seen in camp and in the preseason. And that has helped Drew Brees, when he's been in a preseason game, look really good. He's been protected up front. But look, I also think the relationship between the Saints and Jimmy Graham really started going south when they basically had to fight against each other when Jimmy Graham claimed to be a wide receiver. The Saints claimed him to be a tight end in a franchise tag dispute. The Saints won. Look, and you have Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis arguing in front of the guy, in front of a third party, trying to take money off the table for him, and they won. And so, and I don't think the Saints were ever really comfortable paying him $10 million a year, and so I think they were ready to change that dynamic. I think that's kind of went south right after that.
Yeah, and Larry, and then Jimmy Graham goes out to Seattle and he goes, "Yeah, I love to block. Oh, I don't care whether I get any passes."
He's still olaying like he's a matador, doing the same thing in Seattle right now, from what I've seen.
Let's talk about the division. In your opinion, since that's been so crappy, and last year Carolina wins with 7 victories, who's going to take hold of this? I mean, who's going to grab it? Tampa Bay's still trying to, figure out what to do with Winston, and Carolina defensively, you wonder about them. I mean, the defense is pretty good, but the offensive line's not much. Cam, what's he going to do? And Atlanta, new coach,
bad defense.
Yeah, bad defense. I mean, are the Saints primed to come back and win 9 games and win this division?
I mean, you look at it on paper, and it would seem like the Saints, A, they still have the best quarterback, and B, they've got talent. It just seems like I don't think anyone's going to grab it, like you said. I think someone's going to kind of stumble into it, and but yeah, there are question marks everywhere. It's funny. I totally fell victim to this last year. Saints Super Bowl team. I wasn't alone. It was a national thought as well, and they fell on their face. And I just think that there's so much uncertainty within the division that I don't know who is the favorite. I guess I would say the Saints, just because if Drew Brees I would take Drew Brees among any of the quarterbacks this year. So I would have to still say, and I don't think the defense can be as bad. Now, look, I'm saying that hesitantly. So I would think if the Saints can get to 9 wins, maybe 10 wins, I still think they would be the favorite. But then it's like, even looking at Carolina, look, they're 7 wins, 1 division. Who's Cam Newton going to throw the football to? Kellen Benjamin's done. Questions in Atlanta, questions in Tampa, questions with the Saints. So who knows? But I think it's by the slimmest of margins, I would say the Saints would be the favorite.
Larry, we know that Drew Brees is planning to play until he's 64 years old or something like Paul McCartney. But you've got a kid down there that we're very interested in that's had a very good exhibition season. What do you think's going to happen there? I mean, is he just going to sit around while Drew continues to play for another 10 years?
Yeah,
is Drew's future in New Orleans?
And does Garrett Grayson look like the heir apparent?
I'm not going to call Garrett Grayson the heir apparent. Can he develop into that? Sure. But he has progressed. I mean, when even in his first preseason game, he had come a long way from where he was in OTAs and the beginning of training camp. You could tell he's taking to what's being taught to him, and so that's a positive. Now, do I think he's the heir apparent? I'm not ready to say that. Now, you mentioned how long is Drew Brees going to play. And is his career going to end in New Orleans? Look, I think this year is a critical year to see where Drew Brees' future goes. What if the Saints go 7-9 again, third time in 4 years, miss the playoffs? He'll be entering the final year of his contract. Cap number's $27 million, and so do you extend him? Do you let him go out on his own terms? Is there a shakeup? Do you start over? Because he'll turn 37 in January, and we're not seeing Peyton Manning or Tom Brady go 7-9. I mean, it's more similar to Brett Favre. Look, when he was going down in Green Bay, they had a backup plan, and he moved on to 2 more teams. And so it's a interesting and curious dynamic for what would happen with Drew if the Saints go south again. I mean, I think they'd have to think really hard about moving on and really blowing this thing up, because obviously, even with him here and he's still good, things aren't right. And so it's make or break time this year.
Oh, well, let's hope that it breaks, because we'd like to get Drew Brees out here to replace Peyton Manning. How would that be?
We'll take him in a
Peyton
second.
Replaced by, because Les wanted Eli to come here, but he's going to stay in New York. So Drew Brees is the third Marks brother. He's one of the Manning brothers.
Do they have an Andrew Luck floating around? I bet you the Saints would be okay with that if they had one of those guys floating around.
Hey, Larry, appreciate your time. What's your Twitter handle?
At Larry Holder. Somehow I was able to wait out had to Twitter stalk my name and was able to pick it up finally after 6 months of dormant, the other Larry Holder, but at Larry Holder.
Congratulations, Larry. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. And it is a big win, trust me.
We'll talk to you soon. Larry Holder of the
Thanks,
Times-Picayune. That segment sponsored by the Blake Street Tavern, our favorite sports bar, best sports bar food in town, most action you'll see in town, 24,000 square feet in that place. They've got an underground social. You can play all kinds of games with your friends. They've got 60 HD TVs. You can watch the games you want. It's the Blake Street Tavern. They're at 23rd and Blake, just a couple of blocks north of Coors Field.